Okay, let's dive right in. Today, we're really digging into the sources you shared, focusing on, well, this really interesting intersection.
Yeah, where ancient practice sort of meets modern medicine.
Exactly. We're looking at what the latest research might be suggesting about acupuncture, specifically its role in fertility and IVF outcomes.
That's right. We've got quite a bit of research here, focusing purely on the data. And our aim really is to unpack what these studies are actually telling us.
You know, how acupuncture might affect things like egg quality, maybe even improve the chances of success with IVF treatments.
Precisely. What does the evidence say?
So let's start there. The findings. What did the data in these sources suggest about the impact on the eggs themselves? Any, tangible effects noted?
It's actually quite interesting. Based on the studies you sent, combining acupuncture with IVF seems potentially promising for the egg retrieval part.
Okay.
The research hints at a possible increase in the number of mature eggs collected, the MII oocytes.
More mature eggs. Okay, that sounds pretty significant.
Yeah.
Was that seen across the board, or did the sources find it helps specific groups more?
Good question. It wasn't necessarily universal. The data seems to point towards specific populations benefiting more noticeably.
Like who?
It seems especially relevant for women over, say, 37, and also those who've unfortunately had previous IVF cycles that didn't work out.
Right, okay.
And there was also a specific mention of electroacupuncture, that's the kind with a mild electric current.
Yeah.
That seemed linked to a higher rate of high-quality embryos, specifically in women with polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS.
Oh, PCOS. Okay, so it's not just about getting more eggs, potentially, but maybe better quality eggs,
Right.
and how they develop later.
Exactly. The research you shared suggests it goes beyond just the count.
Hmm.
It hints at potential improvements down the line, maybe better fertilization rates when sperm meets egg, perhaps better cleavage rates. That's how the embryo divides initially.
Right, the early development.
Yeah. And maybe, ultimately, a better shot at getting those crucial high-quality embryos overall, which obviously are key for implantation.
Okay, this is where I always get curious. The how. How could needles, placed at certain points, possibly impact something so, well, fundamental, like egg development or embryo quality? What did the sources suggest was going on?
Yeah, that's a key question the research tries to address. And it seems to point towards several potential biological pathways. It's not just, say, stress reduction.
Right, going deeper than that.
One big area is metabolic pathways. The studies you provided suggest acupuncture might tweak how cells manage energy and building blocks,
Okay.
affecting things like retinol metabolism and how certain amino acids and lipids are processed, like glycine, serine, threonine, and glycerophospholipids.
So kind of optimizing the internal workings of the cell. It's a little chemical factory.
That's one way to think about it, yeah.
Yeah.
Optimizing the environment inside. And beyond metabolism, there's also evidence suggesting hormonal and cellular effects.
What kind of effects?
The data hints that acupuncture might adjust genes involved in insulin signaling pathways.
Why is that important?
Well, insulin affects how cells grow and function, very relevant for egg cells and developing embryos. It also seems to influence the local environment right there around the ovaries,
How so?
potentially improving blood flow, maybe reducing some local inflammation or stress responses, basically creating a healthier, more supportive setting for eggs to mature properly.
So it's a complex picture emerging from this research then.
Yeah.
It's potentially this interplay, improving cell function, maybe balancing hormones, possibly even making the physical environment around the ovaries better.
Exactly. It seems multifaceted.
And you mentioned it seemed particularly relevant for certain groups. Just to recap, who did the sources really emphasize might benefit most?
Yeah, the population specifics are definitely a key takeaway. For women of, let's say, advanced reproductive age, the studies you sent connect acupuncture to potentially improved IVF outcomes.
Okay.
And some research even tries to link this back to traditional concepts like kidney quiet deficiency, tying it to those metabolic pathways we talked about.
Interesting connection. And PCOS.
And for patients with PCOS, yes. Electroacupuncture in particular looked promising in the research for improving both oocyte quality and clinical pregnancy rate.
And the thinking there is.
Likely by influencing those local ovarian conditions and maybe systemic hormonal balance, sort of helping regulate the environment where the eggs develop.
Okay, so if we put all this together, the data you shared on egg quality, embryo development, these proposed biological mechanisms, and who seems to benefit, What's the big picture from this research?
Well, connecting those dots, the overall message from this research seems to be that acupuncture might indeed have a positive influence on oocyte quality and IVF results.
Hmm.
Especially, it seems, for specific groups like those with maybe a lower ovarian response expected, older women, or those dealing with PCOS.
And crucially, these benefits might be linked to actual measurable biological changes.
Exactly, mediated through tangible metabolic, hormonal, and cellular mechanisms that the studies were trying to investigate.
Which really positions acupuncture, based on this particular set of data,
Hmm.
not as some kind of magic bullet, but maybe as a potential complementary therapy,
Precisely, something that could work alongside standard IVF for certain people.
by potentially influencing these specific biological pathways we've been discussing.
Yes, a complementary approach, but one where research is starting to map out specific biological effects, moving beyond just general wellness.
Right. So considering these findings,
Hmm.
this specific biological effects proposed and the groups who might benefit, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? What does the future look like for integrating therapies like acupuncture more formally into reproductive medicine? Definitely something to think about.